Hey Stampers, it's Debbie with Stamp It with Debbie, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make these 3 beautiful cards using the Country Floral Embossing Folder from the Celebration catalog. Now, normally I wouldn't feature just an embossing folder. I might feature a stamp set, but this set was so beautiful, or this folder was so beautiful, that I wanted to show you a couple different ways to use it. Now, these are the cards I'm going to be showing you how to make today, and they all have their own special little technique to them, but I also wanted to show you a sample of just running right through the embossing folder. Hopefully you can see the texture and the dimension that the embossing folder brings. So that's just a sample. That's not one we're going to be making today, but I also wanted to show you this piece, and I didn't make a card with this one, but I wanted to show you. This is just a piece of our copper foil paper, and I will make this into a card, but I wanted to show you for an example how it would look running through the embossing folder. So let's get started. We're going to create this card first, and I did create this one using Calypso Coral, and today I'm going to create it using Berry Burst. So the first thing we need to do is I'm going to grab the Big Shot because we need to do a little bit of embossing. I'll go over the supplies in just a minute, but one thing you do need is a piece of Whisper White cardstock cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And then the dynamic embossing folders are a little different than a regular folder. They're a little thicker, so you only need one of the clear plates. How you're going to build your sandwich. Also, I wanted to point out some of the new embossing folders have a line right here. That just helps in lining up your cardstock so that you get it straight when you put it through the Big Shot. So we're going to go ahead and put our paper inside of there, put it onto our platform, and then put just one of the plates on top. And I have to move this over a little, otherwise it's going to run into... Next time I'll run it through the other way. All right. I'm going to set my Big Shot aside. And show you what we came up with. So this is the piece that we have. Just the white. And what else we're going to need for this card is I have a piece of Berry Burst cardstock cut at 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, and we scored down here at 4 1/4. We need a piece of basic black cardstock, and we also need a piece of Whisper White cardstock, just a scrap, so that we can punch an image from it. And then I also have a little piece of Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to punch some of the sprig out of that. So let's do a little bit of our punching just to have that done. All right, and for these pieces I'm going to use the Pretty Label punch. It looks like this. And I'm just going to punch one of those in white, and then another one in black. And then the stamp set that I'm using for this particular card is Lily Pad Lake. And it does have some really great greetings in it. It says, "Thinking of you with loving thoughts and prayers. Be calm and leave it to God. To see far is one thing, being there is another, and congratulations." So I just thought that it had some really great sentiments. And I'm going to use the one that says, "Be calm and leave it to God." And I just need a little bit of my Memento Black, and I'm going to stamp that right here on the center of this piece that I punched out. And I'm going to show you a trick on how before I cut it, how I got this piece back here. They're both the same exact punch, but I just need to make this one a little bigger. So I cut it directly in half, and now I'm going to take my adhesive and just run a little bit right there. You could use liquid adhesive as well. And I'm going to put it on the back and just have just a teeny little shadow popping out. I'll do the same with the top part. And there we go. So that part is done. Now, the other thing that I need is my ink. And I'm going to use, as I said, I used Calypso Coral for this one. So I'm going to use, I just want to make one a little bit different. I'm going to use Berry Burst ink for this one. So I do need a sponge dauber and I need my ink pad. I'm just going to ink this up. I'm going to go over some of the flowers that have been embossed. And you don't need to do all of them. Just do the ones that kind of need a little bit of highlighting, and whatever ones look like they kind of give a good balance in the card wherever you wanted a little bit of highlights. For sure they all don't need to be done. So, and some of mine are lighter and some are darker. All right, I think that's good. Oh, I'm going to do this one over here. Just a little more. All right, now I'm going to bring in the Granny Apple Green and my sponge dauber again. And I'm just going to bring a little greenery to the card. Granny Apple Green is one of my very favorite greens in the catalog, although we have lots of great greens right now. And so I'm just going to give that a little color, and again, kind of look at the balance of it and see where you think that it needs a little. And I think, oh, let's do a little bit right here. I think that's good for that one. So we're done with that part. Now I'm going to use some of the mini ruffled ribbon, and I'm going to use this in the Berry Burst. And I want to put this on before I attach this to my card front. So I'm going to bring it around. I'm not tying this in a bow. I'm just going to tie it in a little knot on the front. I think I got too much ribbon, but that's okay. We can cut it off. All right, and I just want to cut this at a little bit of an angle to make it pretty. And now this piece is ready to attach. Now I will warn you that there is a lot of void in the back of this piece now that we've run it through the embossing folder, because it has so much texture to it. So you won't want to add a little bit of extra adhesive if you're using liquid adhesive, kind of get down in some of those grooves. All right, we can put this piece right on the front here. And I think I forgot to fold my card in half, so I'm going to use my bone folder real quick to do that. All right. Now we're ready to attach this piece here. I'm going to do that with a couple dimensionals. And then I'm also, the next step, I'm going to take my Stampin' Blends marker, and we do not have a Berry Burst, so I chose the Dark Rich Razzleberry. I just want to attach this right on here. The Dark Rich Razzleberry. And I'm going to take my pearls, and I want to take my Stampin' Blends markers. You can use the Stampin' Blends markers because they're alcohol based. They will dry very quickly. I'm just going to color a couple of the pearls. You can color any of our embellishments. You could color buttons, you can color the rhinestones, any beads. So I'm just going to take this off. The only thing that won't be dry is if it's on this paper, which is real smooth. Be careful not to get ink on your hands. All right, I'm going to start by putting that one in the center. Oh, this one's running away from me. And number 2, and then one more. Well, all 3 of these pearls are trying to escape me today. Okay. That one just needs to come down. So you can see it in two very different colors. It looks beautiful in both colors. And there are two cards. And these could be good for a thinking of you. Oop, I forgot to put my greenery in there. Thinking of you, an encouragement card. It could actually even be used for a sympathy card. I almost forgot to add my little green sprigs here. So I'm going to add some Tombow multi-purpose adhesive and put that right behind there. And one more. And now it's complete. So again, two very different colors, but they both are very beautiful. So that is card number 1 for today. Now I think we're going to work on card number 2. I'm saving the last one because it gets a little messy. So we're going to use this one here, or do this one here. What we need for this is a card base cut at 8.5 by 5.5. If you would like a piece of white for the inside, you'll cut it 4 by 5.25. And we'll go ahead and get that. We need a piece for the front here, cut at 4 by 5.25. And a piece of white to fit inside. And this one is cut at 4.25 by 3.25. And it's just going to fit inside, so if it's not exact, that's okay. And then we're also going to use some of the old olive ribbon today and some of our rhinestones. So let's get started with this card here. The first thing that we want to do, if you haven't seen the stitched framelits from the catalog, they are awesome. And they come in, I can't exactly remember how many sizes there are in there, but all of them, they're stacked. So this one here, if you can see, there's stitching on the outside and the inside. So when you cut something out, it's going to have, this is a piece I have in green. This is the void, and so this also has stitch, so you'll be able to save this piece and use it for your next project. So what we want to do is take this piece here, and I'm going to bring the Big Shot back in. And I'm going to set it up because I need to cut out the framelit first. So I'm going to grab my second clear plate, and I'm going to put the piece that I want to cut right there. And then I'm going to take this framelit and put it right in the middle. And just make sure it's pretty straight and centered. And then run it through the Big Shot. Now once the hole is cut out, again, we can save this piece for our next project. We have this part done. Now we need to run that piece through the embossing folder. That's this piece here. So I do need to change up my Big Shot here just a little bit again. And this time I'm going to put this piece inside of the embossing folder. Go ahead and close it down. I need one clear plate instead of 2 as my sandwich this time. And there we are. We now have a frame that is embossed. Let me put this Big Shot aside here. And we can get to work on our card. For this card, I have used the stamp set Petal Palette. And I'm using the greeting, "Life is so much better with you in it." And then I'm also going to use the greenery here. And so the first thing we need to do is just fold our card base in half, use our bone folder to burnish that edge so it's nice and flat. And then we want to work on this part here. And we just need to get our stamps. And I'm going to use Old Olive ink and the Memento Black for the greeting. And so first I'm going to do my greeting. I'm going to kind of put that right in the center. And then I'm going to get a piece of scrap paper because I don't want to go around my board here. So for this part here where I'm doing the greenery, I'm just going to kind of ink up my leaf and kind of bring it up to where the words are. You could have it overlap a little bit if you want to, because the green is a little bit lighter. So for that one I will have it overlap just a little bit. Now because I'm going to put a piece inside, I think that I'm also going to just put a little green here along the edge on the inside of my card. So we're all done with stamping for this one. I think very quickly I'll go ahead and put this piece on the inside. And then that piece is done. Now, the order that you're going to put this on, we're going to center this on our card so we can go ahead and put some adhesive here. I think that looks pretty good there. And then for this piece, we want to have a couple dimensionals. Actually, I'm going to put my dimensionals down. I want to put the ribbon around it first so that I can get the dimensionals right where I want them to be. So I'm going to take my old olive sheer ribbon. This is 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to wrap it around, and I want to tie a bow, so I want to leave a little bit extra. Don't want to cut myself short there. And now we're just going to tie a bow up here on the corner. And then I'll cut the edges off again to make them look pretty. And you can use a glue dot. I'm not too worried that this isn't laying exactly how I want it to, because when I'm all done and I get the card put together, I'll just stick a glue dot under there and hold it right where I need it to be. So now I'm going to take my dimensionals, because I do want to use those to kind of hold down my ribbon as well. And it might seem like a lot of dimensionals because I want to have a lot, just because I don't want the center of the frame to fall down and be pushed down. So there we go. This part, now we just have to get all the backing off. Peel all those off. And now we're ready to attach it. I'm going to go ahead and just center it over on the top of our card, but also on top of that greeting. Oops. I'm thinking I need to lift it up to be able to eyeball it a little better. There we go. Now, we're not quite done. I'm going to go ahead and take a glue dot, and I'm going to make that ribbon stay exactly where I want it to stay so that the bow goes sideways. So I'll just put a glue dot right underneath there. And there, that's much better. Now, the other thing that I want to do is add some glimmer to this. So I'm going to add some small rhinestones, just randomly wherever I think the card needs a little more sparkle. And if you know me, I love sparkle, so I think you can have too much, so you have to be careful, but alright, so that looks pretty good. And then the very last thing that I want to do is I want to add a little bit of Wink Stella to the front of this card because I like it a little more glittery. And if you're not familiar with Wink of Stella, this is a glitter pen. And I would just shake it up a little bit. You squeeze it just a little bit, and the glitter, it shouldn't come out, but I wanted to make sure that I had some on there, so I'll just use this. Now it's on the end of this, and you can kind of paint it wherever you want it to be. And once it dries, it's just going to be sparkly. Right now it's wet, so it's showing up a little bit more. But once it dries, it's just going to be sparkly. And you can put it over as much of the card as you want, or you don't have to do it at all if you think it looks just fine without it. So there is card number 2. Kind of simple, but also very sparkly and beautiful. And just to tell a friend, I really like having you in my life. Thank you. So there's card number 2. And again, if I didn't say, this is also Berry Burst with Old Olive. Now the last card that I want to show you is this one here. And it's a kind of a different kind of technique. Still using the embossing folder. And I'm trying to locate my ribbon. So we are going to use a piece of balmy blue cardstock for this one. And this is cut at 8.5 by 5.5. We're going to go ahead and score it at 4 1/4. Use our bone folder to burnish this. You also need a piece of Whisper White, and that is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And then again, I'm using the stitched rectangle framelits from the New Occasions catalog, and I have one in Balmy Blue, and I also have one in Whisper White. And I'm still using that Lily Pad Lake stamp set, and this time I'm going to use a stamp that says, "Thinking of you with loving thoughts and prayers." And I'm just going to get that on my block here, and I'm going to use my Memento Black. And stamp that right in the center of that piece there. And then this white piece gets attached to the blue using dimensionals. So we'll go ahead and do that part now just to get it done and out of the way. And then we can set this piece aside. We do need the Big Shot one more time. So I'm going to clear my work area here. And bring the Big Shot in. All right, we are only going to need, again, one clear plate with our platform. And for this technique, what we're doing to get this color ink onto the Whisper White is we're actually going to take our ink pad and run it right over the embossing folder. That's why I saved this project for last. Now it's important that you get the right side. So the back side is pushing up, and that's what's giving us the white of the flower. This part here is what's going to get pushed down, and so you can put the ink here, and that's what transfers over to this part. You can also tell that this is the front because it's got the writing on it. So all you need to do is take your stamp pad, and you could also use a brayer for this if you choose. Stampin' Up! Does not have a brayer, but if you have one, you could use it. And you're just going to run the ink right over the embossing folder. So make sure each area is covered. Now, you could make 10 of these cards, and they're all going to look differently because of how the ink sits on the embossing folder and then how it picks up with the ink once it goes through. Go ahead and put your piece of cardstock in here. And then you're going to close it very carefully. You don't want to get your fingers in there, which I just did. Now, set it down. Put your clear plate over it and run it right through the Big Shot. And I'm going to run it through a couple times just to make sure it transfers. Now, this is the kind of tricky part because you want to make sure to not get ink everywhere. So go ahead and take it out. Be careful not to touch that side and grab your piece that's colored. Now, for this, to clean this off, all you need to do is run it through some warm water with maybe a little bit of dish soap if it doesn't come off. Some of the darker colors, reds, may stain it a little bit, but once you wash it, it's not going to transfer onto any of your other papers. So just for now, I'm going to fold that in half and put it away. And then we need to bring back our card base and our ribbon. And so you can definitely see these are both balmy blue, but they look a lot different. Maybe because this one I only ran through once and this one I ran through a couple times, so it picked up a little bit darker. I'm going to use a piece of the white weave ribbon, bring it around my card, and tie a little knot here. I just want to try to move this up just a little touch without tearing my paper, hopefully. There, so it's a little bit more at the top. Use my scissors to make it pretty on the ends. Oops, that one looks like it could use a little more off. All right, now we can go ahead and adhere this part to our card base. So again, because it's very deeply embossed, you're going to want to cover it pretty good with some adhesive, especially at the corners. And then go ahead and attach it to your card front. Now, since we put this together and we have dimensionals here, I'm just going to use regular adhesive for the back here and go ahead and attach it right to my card, and then my card is all done. So the last thing that I want to show you really quickly, just because I feel like this is kind of it's not only showing you 3 projects, but a little bit of a tutorial on the textured dynamic folders. One thing that they do recommend is to break down the fibers of the paper is to go ahead and use a little bit of water. So before you run it through the folder, you're just going to spritz it just a little bit, and then you're going to run it through the embossing folder, and you're going to get a little bit more texture with that. It's not necessary, but you can get a little deeper texture if you do that. Spritz just a little bit. I can't show you now, unfortunately, because I just ran mine through with the blue and I don't have a way to clean it. But if you just spritz a little bit of water on any of those dynamic embossing folders, you'll see a little more definition in the texture of the folder. So I hope that you have enjoyed these 3 projects today, and if you like them, I hope that you will click like and subscribe, and join me over on my Facebook page at facebook.com/stampitwithdebbie, and see what else I've been creating, and join us by clicking follow over there. Thank you for stopping by today, and I hope to see you again soon.